CHEZ NIHELL, welcome to Forces Sport. A pleasure to have you. A few people mentioned they wanted to hear more from you after you sadly had to retire from professional boxing, and we'll go into that during this conversation. But you've been such a stalwart of military boxing, you know, not just army boxing. Certainly in the time that I've been in this job, you've been there and you've been a permanent fixture. First of all, let's talk about the effect that COVID has had and on you as a person, but also your boxing career as well.
Yeah, so I mean, due to the pandemic, the last 2 years of my professional boxing career, I've been inactive because of COVID. And the last 6 months, I've had 3 training camps, all 2-month training camps, back to back, where the shows have been cancelled. So I've done a 2-month training camp, and then all the sacrifices going through those training camps, put my body through the mill, all the sparring, all the getting on the road to London, going on sparring trips. And then come the end of the 2 months, the shows have been cancelled, like 2 days before the show was due. And that, after the 2-year layoff, was sort of like sealed the deal for me on that. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Obviously, before the pandemic, my first year as a professional, I had 4 fights, 4 wins. Everything was running along smoothly. Pandemic hit, and then a few times I was like, oh, will I ever box again? Will I ever box again? As soon as professional boxing got given the green light to get back training, which was still whilst the pandemic was going on, I was back in the gym and training for fights. The behind closed door shows were on. I was trying to get on those. My manager was trying to get me on those. Didn't. And then, like I say, the last 6 months I've been on shows where I've been selling tickets, training, going through the training camps, and then come the end of the training camp, 2 days before the show's been cancelled.
Because I think people probably have a perceived idea of professional boxing. You know, they see the sort of superstars of boxing, that's all done for them. But what people don't appreciate, I don't think, is how much you had to generate yourself to get those fights and get the crowds in and get people to come and watch as well. And that had an effect.
Absolutely. Like, in professional boxing, you've got like purse fights and you've got ticket sale fights. Like my first bout, which was at the O2 Arena on a world title undercard, dream debut. That was a purse fight, so I didn't have to worry about selling tickets. I just, put a number out there for people to call to buy tickets in my name, but then I just got paid per round, so I didn't have to worry about it. And then after that, my 3 other fights were ticket sale fights, where I had to generate and sell enough tickets to pay for my opponent, and then enough tickets to pay for the house fee and the promoter fee, and then your trainer fees and stuff like that on top. So you're looking at like a 6-round fight, you're looking at about $3.5 grand that you've got to sell tickets before you can even fight. And say if you're short on that, well, you've got to find the money through sponsors or whoever. And like I say, the first bout that got cancelled after COVID, I didn't get the tickets yet before it got cancelled, so I didn't do any of that. But then the last 2 fights have been cancelled. I was putting it out there, social media, like I say, generating, getting it exposed, getting tickets sold, selling loads and loads of tickets. Then 2 days before, I've got to tell people that, the show's cancelled. I'll refund everyone their money, but then people have like booked hotels, they've paid for transport, I've let people down, and that's tough. That's really, really tough, and that adds to the pressure of everything else going through the training camp and then not getting that end reward at the end of a training camp. And like I say, that happened twice, and then it was one of those that I sacrificed so much in my life that I'm going through these training camps, and I'm holding a day job as well, where my family are in training camp as well. I've got a young family, I've got young children, so it wasn't fair on them. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough game, real tough game.
It's an interesting insight into the precarious nature of professional boxing, because as you alluded to, you see Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua celebrating, but that's the end product of a bigger story in the ranks of, or in the pro ranks. So when you came to the realization that perhaps it's not going to be viable for you to do what you wanted to achieve as a pro boxer, what were your thoughts?
Absolutely wounded, because I know, and I'm not even trying to be big-headed here or anything, but I think domestically I punch holes in most of the cruiserweights out there, and I still feel like physically sat here right now I'd still do that, and that's what does break me a little bit. But I do need to focus on my career. There's lots of things I've been putting back because of boxing, and it's only so long I can put them back. I'm 34 years old now, I'm going to be 35 next year. My goal, when I won the ABAs, the National Elite Championships, I was 30 years old, turned pro pretty much straight away after that. I was in my 30s, but as a cruiserweight, bigger weights, you can go on a bit longer. But my goal was to retire at 35 years old, having boxed for domestic titles and having had a crack at the British title. And I've lost 2 crucial years now, and I'm going to be 35 next year, and I'm still only on 4 bouts. And like I say, the last 3 cancellations just sort of nailed it on the head for me.
And when did you have that conversation sort of with yourself and then involve your family or anyone at work or here at the boxing gym? Or is it sort of a decision, you're the sort of person I can imagine that makes a decision and there's no conversation about it, you're done?
Yeah, it was one of those that after the fight before last got cancelled, and then it was straight into the next training camp, and I spoke to my team and I said, are we sure this show is it concrete? I said, because this fight has to happen for my career. And in the fact I was saying that it has to happen because if the same was to happen again, I will retire. And I sort of knew that in my head. I'd had the conversations with my wife Alana, obviously she's part of my professional training team as well, does my corners and stuff. And she was just so gutted for me. She knows how much it means to me and the dream and how much hard work I've put into it over the years. And yeah, it's tough. And like I say, like, it's tough on my mental health as well, like going through these training camps and putting so much into it and all the stress and the pressure and the sacrifices and then not getting that end result. But it is a conversation I'd had, and it's a conversation I'd had with myself. But loads of times through COVID, I kept saying, we'll have a box again, we'll have a box again. But then I just kept training, kept grizzing, kept doing everything in my power to make it happen. And then, say, 6 months, 3 fights cancelled in a row. You know, how much longer can I put, because I've got other things. I've got my army career where there's stuff I want to do, I've got goals I want to hit in my army career, and the clock's ticking on that as well.
So you've hung the gloves up as a boxer, but you haven't walked away from the sport, and that's great news for these guys over here for the Army Boxing Gym. What are you doing now?
Yeah, absolutely not. Like you say, I'll always be involved in Army boxing. At the moment, I'm doing the head coach job for the Army Development Squad, which is great because now I can give them my all as head coach. We've been really busy. I was out on a show last night, as you know. Our boxer Lewis Harvey from 27 Regiment RLC, he boxed his first bout for the Army Dev Squad, and he won unanimously. And these all run outs in preparation for the UK Armed Forces Championships, which start next week. We also got to Catterick on Thursday. We've got a Catterick show up there. So, no, I'll always be involved in Army boxing. You know, I'm a level 2 head coach, and I've also registered as an official as well. So, even when I'm not involved with the boxing side of it, I'll be doing my hand at officiating as well.
Yeah, how does it compare then, moving away from actually being in the ring, throwing those punches, to shouting to your person that you're training, you're coaching, what you want them to do? Do you feel like a puppet master?
You kind of do a little bit because all the hard work's done before in the gym, do you know what I mean? So you've been working, obviously with the development squad, it's just over 2 months I've had them now where I've been coaching them every day, and my 2IC Gav Taylor, he's doing it with me. He's somebody great to bounce off as a coach because he's worked with me as a coach from when I very first joined the Army. He's got lots and lots of coaching experience, especially at the development level. He coached me at my unit level when I first joined, and then got me on trials for the Army team, and then he came to the Army team as a coach and then done my corners in the ABA finals and Haringey Box Cup and everything like that, and we worked together as coaches on the team, and now we're working together for the development squad. And like I say, you get a boxer relationship with those boxers. And funny story, day I was supposed to box, my last fight got cancelled. I ended up doing one of my boxers' corners over on the Guildford show, and he won, and he come to the corner, embraced me, and was quite emotional when the decision got called. And that, I still got that buzz of winning. Like the answer to your question, I do still get that buzz when I'm the other side of the ropes and my boxers are in there, especially my boxers I've got a relationship with, who I'm working daily with. It's like I'm in the fight as well. So I do still get that buzz. I did still have that sense of feeling that day that I walked away with a win.
So it's lessened the blow then, moving into the corner, away from the ring itself. It's lessened the blow for you. You've had to walk away from the sport as a fighter.
100%. I don't think I'd be able to walk away from professional boxing if I wasn't still involved with boxing, especially the Army boxing team. Army boxing team's like a family to me. I'm involved with the Army boxing team since 2012. You know, we're going like nearly 9 years now. I'll always be involved with Army boxing as long as I'm still serving.
And it's such a, like I said, you know, ever since I've been involved with the military, you've been there sort of with Army boxing, and of course Alana is so strongly involved as well. And I have to say, over the years, going to boxing events, the inter-services most notably, there is that family feel about the Army boxing team. and you're obviously keen to maintain it. Is that something that can be maintained by keeping the same people in and then them following the same path as you, as in going into the coaching and then, you know, them passing on those ways to other people? Do you see that happening?
I believe so, because you look at the elite head coach at the moment, James Allen. We were boxers on the team together. He was a previous team captain. He'd done the head coach job for the development team before he went on to do the elite head coach. So he'd done the full circle, and I do believe, like, keeping that ethos and, like you say, that family, that Army boxing team family. I think it doesn't have to be somebody who's boxed before, who's boxed Army team before, but I do think it helps. Like I say, James, boxer, team captain, dev head coach, elite head coach. Myself, boxer, team captain, doing the dev head coach job, and one day in the future I'd like to do the elite head coach job as well. And I do think the Army boxing team, it is a family.
It's a great time to be involved in Army boxing. Of course, you've always had your Commonwealth medal winners. I'm thinking of your own wife, Alana, who won bronze in Glasgow a few years ago. But now you've got an Olympian that started her boxing career here, Karis Hartingstall, winning out in Tokyo. What sense did this group get from her success?
Well, it's amazing. Like, the fact Karis going to the Olympics and then medaling is just absolutely unreal. And the team, I mean, I don't know if you saw the video clip of us all watching it as a team in the common room, but we lifted the roof off. And that, you know, that sets the bar for Army boxing now as well. You know, the females on the team are leading the way. So you've got Karis, just done the Olympics, medalled. She also done, before, on the build up to that, World Championships, medalled, Europeans medalled. And I've got Tori Ellis-Willits, who's on GB setup as well, and she's going to the Commonwealth Games next year. So it's like, you know, and like I say, my wife Alana had the Commonwealth Games previously. The females on the team, they're setting the path at the highest level. And it does mean so much to the team, because especially in my years and in recent years, we've not had an Army boxing Olympian, and now we have, and hopefully long may that continue.
Yeah, what would it mean to you if you could coach one of these guys to that success, to that Olympic success?
Yeah, I mean, that would be unreal. There's only, as coaches on the Army boxing team, there's only so far we can take them for when they go on to Team GB, but then you can still sit back and be proud that you was involved in that story. And like Karis, the first year that Karis won the England Elite Championships was the year that I won them as well, so we both boxed in the same bill. So I remember us embracing each other. We had 4 national champions, 3 girls and me, and we all got a big team photo with our belts and everything. And you know, even there, like, I feel like I was involved in her story a bit, and now she's gone on to the Olympics, and I'm massively proud of her, and so is my wife Alana, and all the team.
We spoke to a rugby historian last week, and he said that rugby has always been in the DNA of the military, and probably the other way around. But I also feel that about boxing, and what you talk about here about the family, about the fact that you were there from the start of Karis's story as well. Do you feel that the same way about boxing being in the DNA of the military as well?
Definitely. When you look at the core values that are involved in boxing, and straight away, courage and discipline. Do you know what I mean? I believe that's why boxing is such a big sport in the Army, because you find out who you are in the boxing ring. And you find out who you are on the day of before you've got to get in the ring. And anyone who's done it knows that, because on the day it's a mental challenge. You know, it's mentally tough. It's not a comfortable place to be. Just the more you're exposed to it, the more you get used to it. But yeah, like I say, I definitely, if you look back in history, and you look at all Army boxing back through history, it's got a great history. The Army boxing team's got a great history. You look at the Combined Services history and the trophy, all the dates on there of RAF, Navy and Army, all the years we've competed for it, dates back over 100 years. So massive, massive history. And like I say, Army boxing team, long may it continue. Long live the ABT.
Yeah, the military bring a certain discipline, or a very good discipline, to the sport of boxing. What's your take on celebrity boxing at the moment? The YouTubers who are going into the ring thinking...
Jake Paul.
That aren't even boxers really, are they?
Because you would have been in the cruiserweight? Was that
yeah, I'd love to have boxed him. I'd still box him now if I'd come out of retirement for that. I'm licensed until March next year, so yeah, that'd be a happy payday.
What's your take on it? Because obviously it's putting boxing under the spotlight, but is it doing it for the right reasons?
It's one of them. Some people would say any publicity is good publicity. Jake Paul, thing is, right, he's got so much money behind him. His first fight was against like a nobody, but he's boxed some guys here, granted they've got MMA backgrounds, but he's boxed some half decent guys for his first fights. And with the money behind him, the people who are coaching him, if he stuck at it, he could probably turn out to be a really good boxer. That's the thing, do you know what I mean? Like, if you look at a lot of you know, a lot of top level pros that turn over, they get spoon fed their first 10 fights. Obviously now he's boxing against Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's brother. That'll be a real challenge for him, obviously, because he's a proper boxer who's been doing it his whole life. I do sometimes, I'm a bit on the fence with it, whether I think it's good for boxing or not, but at the end of the day, if he is to stick it out and he's getting coached by the best people, you know, he's got the money for that, that he could make a career out of it if he wanted to, no doubt, because he's a physically big lad, big cruiserweight, with the right training, the right, you know, anyone can apply themselves to anything at the end of the day.
As sportsmen and women, do you see yourselves as entertainers?
Yeah, I think, yes, because people come to have ultimately with boxing, if you look at most boxing nights are on a weekend because people go to usually enjoy themselves and watch the boxing, so it is entertainers, but when you're in the ring doing, you know, for me personally, and I say to all my boxers, you're there to do a job and you're there to win. It is supposed to be fun, it is fun, it is sport, it is fun, but when you're doing boxing, you know, you should be in there to win. That's the competitive side of you, and that's the side I try and bring out in all my boxers, and all of them want that. Nobody wants to walk out of the ring second best.
Has recruitment ever been a problem? I can't imagine it has been. You know, and does people like Jake Paul bring some different people in, possibly, who sort of see themselves as wannabes? You know.
Yeah, are they the right role models you want, or are you wanting sort of?
I don't think they are. I don't think. Yeah, Karen Artenstall is the perfect
Yes.
role model. Yeah, I think Jake Paul, some of the videos he does and stuff like that, he's, you know, idiot. But at the end of the day, that's professional boxing. That's a different sport to amateur boxing. And if you look at boxing as a whole, like obviously, like you said there, like Army Boxing Team, we have loads of engagement without even purposely trying to be engagement, because we're going out and sparring at civilian clubs week in, week out, and then we're travelling to civilian shows, and you know, we're competing against civilians and, you know, previous like civilian national teams and stuff like that. So we're constantly getting engagement anyway. So people, lots of times I've been at boxing clubs all up and down the country. We say, Army Boxing Team, so are you in the army? I'm like, yeah, I'm in the army. It's like, oh, so you're a soldier? I'm like, yeah. It's like, but you do this. Is this like a club? Or like, no, it's my full time. This is full time. You know, if you get onto the elite athletes, you know, full time program, which the Army elite team is on. Obviously, development team is just for 3 months of the year, and the ones that shine will go on to that. I said, but if you box at elite level and you're good enough, you can box full time within the Army, and live the dream, so to speak.
In terms of facilities, the facilities here match anywhere, probably outside of Sheffield, which is the home of Great Britain boxing. So if you were somebody that wanted to marry the two, as you have done, this is the perfect place to come.
Absolutely.
Military career and boxing.
Absolutely. I'll say to any young, and I do say to any young boxer who loves boxing, who, you know, I think any young boxer has the characteristics to be a good soldier, because like I said straight away, they've got courage and they've got discipline. Like today, I'm originally from the Isle of Wight. Today, my old coach, Mick Voicey, he's bringing up a light welterweight from the Isle of Wight to spar some of the lads, and they're planning a day trip up here. And I'll say to any young lad like that, look, if you want to look at the setup, like you say, look at the job, you know, get paid to be a full-time athlete. It's half the reason why I joined the Army. I joined because I wanted to go and do a tour of Afghanistan, and I wanted to box for the Army team. And luckily enough, that's what happened, and you know, I'm sat here okay.
And you've got a wife from it as well.
And I've got a wife from it as well, yeah. Exactly. Happy days. Who understands the sport as well. Yeah.
Does that help? Does that help having somebody?
100%. It's a lonely sport. So, you know, me and my wife Alana, we've been together coming 8 years. We met on the Army Boxing Team, and like I said, these past 3 training camps that the fights have been cancelled, if my other half didn't understand the sport and didn't understand the sacrifices, that could be extra added pressure on me, on top of all the other pressures that I was talking about. And my wife, she lives it with me, and when I'm in training camp, she understands, and you know, she's like my rock. So it does make a sport which is lonely not so lonely.
And on that note, and it's quite nicely come round to it, we've spoken to a lot of our Forces sports stars who are the top of their game. I'm thinking Premiership rugby players, RAF and, you know, GB hockey players, and there's a real kind of cross-section in that some of the elite rugby players don't actually watch rugby. They've got no interest in their sport outside of actually being very good at it. Whereas Liam Sanford, who's an RAF hockey player and GB as well, was out at the Olympics himself, absolutely lives and breathes hockey. His whole social life is around it. Where are you on that scale?
Yeah, it's a funny one because obviously me and my wife both being boxers, like especially when we were both boxing on the team as boxers together, we were living the sport. Even at home, it was coming home with us and weekends and that. Now, obviously, young family and my eldest daughter lives with us and stuff like that. There is that break off as well. But don't get me wrong, we pay for the pay-per-view fights every Saturday whenever it's on. So do you know what I mean? But there is that bit of separation. But you know, boxing, when you've competed at or you've been involved with the sport for so long, it does sort of become part of you anyway. Like boxing doesn't. You know, doesn't identify me as a person, but it probably is part of my ID, and that was a part of the struggle about me retiring. It was like, this is sort of part of who I am, but like the conversation we just had earlier on, I'm always going to be involved in army boxing, but just not on the competing side. I can be the other side of the ropes, or be a coaching or officiating. But yeah, like I say, you do end up living the sport full time.
It's a sport that's been around for hundreds of years and probably has changed very little in that time. But do you find yourself always learning, especially now you're a coach and in the corner? Are you always educating yourself about the sport?
100%, because so many different styles make fights. Like I've said to all of my boxers, I said all of us, including myself, are learning all the time, because no bout, can be the same. You know, a different opponent. Your tactics against one opponent, you're going with a different opponent, and those tactics will not work at all, and you've got to be able to adapt. That's the best thing about boxing, or to be the best version of yourself about boxing, is to be able to adapt to whatever's in front of you, because different ranges, different sizes, different styles, different stances, you're never the full package, because somebody else will start boxing and they'll be slightly different, and you've got to use different tactics against them. So you never stop learning in this sport.
You made your pro debut at the O2, not a bad place to start. And of course you won that ABA title. Which of those two fights is the most memorable for you?
So they are the two highlights, yeah.
Yeah, which of those two is your biggest?
That's a tough one. The ABA title, winning that was years and years of, you know, blood, sweat and tears, literally. You know, every year I was on the team, 6 years boxing on the team, every year winning the UCAF, and then going through to the nationals. It was like 2 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals, 2 finals. First time I reached the final when I was team captain, I got beat on a split. It meant so much to me. But then it stemmed even further back from that when I was boxing at my old civilian boxing club on the Isle of Wight, Newport Phoenix. And I was boxing there, me and my younger brother, with my dad. And my dad would be talking to my old coach about the ABAs. And the ABA, for any amateur boxer in England, the ABA title is the holy grail. It's known worldwide. So that, for me, the years it took me to get there. When I first joined the army, I never thought that I'd be an ABA champion. Like, the goal for me was to be UK Armed Forces champion. You know, that's the biggest boxing title in the military. Then, fortunately enough, I won that the first year I was on the team, and it was like, right, maybe I've got a shot at the ABAs. And then every year I got closer and closer and closer until the last sort of 3-4 years on the team. It was like, yeah, I need to win that title. But it was so hard, so many minor setbacks. Then the last year I said, oh, this year I'm going to win it. If I don't, I'm not good enough. I'll cut no corners. And that was the year I won it. So I think the ABA title was, even though people look at the glitz and glam of the O2 Arena, and being my debut, I'll never forget that night. And it was that whole week was an amazing experience. But being England Elite ABA champion, having my name's in the history books, you know, if you look on BoxRec, it's on there, and my name's on a big list, and you've got Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, David, there's legends up there in the same weight category of ABA champions. So to put my name in history there, that'll be my highlight for me for my boxing career.
And how long was the come down? How long did it take you to come down from that achievement? You're still dining out on it?
Yeah. I've never really came down. I've still got the belt at home in the front room. Yeah. I've got all 3 of the belts actually.
They let you keep it?
Yes, yeah, because it's an annual fixture. You keep that. And I've UK Armed Forces title and the England title belt, because I defended them enough time, I've got to keep them as well. So those 3 belts, ABA, England title series, national belt, and then the UK Armed Forces belt. That's my amateur boxing legacy to look back on, so to speak.
It's not a bad legacy, is it?
No, it's good. It's good.
Listen, CHEZ, an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure that legacy will continue, not just for the time that you remain with Army Boxing, but long on, I'm sure, with the stability that you and Alana and the characters around you have brought to Army Boxing. I'm confident that we will see you very shortly, and if not, we'll see you at the Inter-Services in March, probably behind a microphone. I'm sure that'll be part of the plan. Yes, you've become one of our dream commentators. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you so much for being on Forces Sport, and like I said, your legacy will, I'm sure, continue a long time after you even hang up the coaching gloves. So thank you.
No, thank you. Pleasure.
Welcome.